Pirate kings, pirate queens, non-binary monarchs of the sea, hello, how we doing? I'm excited, because we are just on the cusp of One Piece Set 7, 500 years into the future. I've been sitting on this data for a little while now, doing some algorithming, some spreadsheeting, a little bit of testing even, crazy, I know. And just as we did for Set 6, I'm going to be going through a countdown of the top decks in OP07 according to the data I've got from the Asian format. This will be post-ban as well, so no more Sakazuki, no more Great Eruption, no more Reject. Everything you see in these videos will reflect the format we are going to be going into on our side of the world here. I've got 7 leaders, 7 deck lists to discuss with y'all, along with all the usual metrics, and the plan's just to get these out in the days leading up to the set release. And then on the day of release, I'll be releasing one large video with all these profiles rolled into one, along with some broader context into the format and some analysis of the Asian format as a whole. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you aren't already so you can find out exactly when these come out. And for anyone who may be visiting my channel for the first time, first off, thank you. So great to have you. And second off, here is a breakdown of the process I go through for these videos. I have gone through OnePieceTopDecks.com, SecondStorage.com, and Firefist.gg to log every single deck list that either won or topped a tournament in the Asian version of the Set 7 format, put them all into a giant spreadsheet, and assigned each list a point value based on the scale of competition of that tournament, the decks placing in the tournament, and how far into the format that tournament took place. With that, I've been able to rank each leader as well as come up with a standard topping deck list for that leader, along with some very useful metrics on cost curve, amount of counter, number of 2K counters, non-counter characters, blockers, events, cards with a certain type even, as well as some tech choices and general popularity of cards that got used with each leader. I've also been reading a fair amount of Japanese articles from Note.com and doing some of my own testing to get further insight into these decks and why players made the choices they did, all for the purpose of getting us as ready as we can be for this set once it comes out over here. So thank you again for coming along, welcome to Sakura Kingdom, and let's get into the countdown to OP07. Starting things off at number 7, we have a deck that I was very, very fond of back in OP06, that has a new direction thanks to some cool cards from OP07, EB01, and an event from Set 1 that I had no idea would ever see play. PERONA. Our general strategy is pretty similar to what it was in OP06. Start the game off with Searchers to divert our opponent's attacks away from our life, and then use the leader ability to either reduce or rest our opponent's characters, control the board in the big game. Then in the late game we go tall, we get a big board, keep scaling down our opponent's resources, and just grind them out until they can't play anymore, and we finish them off. And hoo-wee, PERONA's got a good grind game going. She went to Tokyo U, she took some business classes, she's managing the Hot Topic now, she is great with money, she's made some good friends, business partnerships. She is seeing cards, she's getting that paper. But she does still run Suru, amazing card for black, absolute staple, 2K counter, on play reduce a character's cost by 2. PERONA lists in Set 6 weren't really running Great Eruption that much anyway, but she is black's most efficient cost reducer post-ban. We're also running 8 searchers between our 4 copies of Kozuki, Momonosuke, and Otama. Together, these two give us so much access to our Land of Wano package. We can get our Ryuma, our other Wano cards, which we'll be getting into, and even though they both have 0 power, they still have use on the board beyond that search. And that's because, in my opinion, the coolest thing about this build is that a competitive deck is finally playing You Can Be My Samurai. There were some lawless that played it now and then in OP01, but this is the norm for PERONA instead of something wacky like it was for Law. Between all of our searchers, our small cost reducers, we have lots of utility cards that never really attack. So we don't have to worry about this card's usual downside of taking away our offense, and we might divert some of those smaller swings at our life away if they don't want us having the chance to either search with Momonosuke or Pot of Greed again. A lot of times in Set 6 when PERONA would go first, she'd have an extra Don as she played out an even curve, and in the middle turns, this extra Don gets some more use, especially since we're not even that pressed to attach to our lead anyway when we swing at a rested character, because the opponent's going to expect us to Ryuma them anyway. So You Can Be My Samurai not only gets us more use out of our small characters, but also lets us be more efficient with our Don as well. One-Legged Soldier gives a character -3 to their cost, just like Helmeppo does, but One-Legged Soldier is also a 2k, and his effect is Activate Main. So we can rest him with You Can Be My Samurai, and then still get that reduction off afterward. Inupe was a cool fringe pick in Set 6, and he saw way more play in OP07. He's going to help us dig for our unsearchable cards, our Moria, our Sabo, Ice Age in particular, as well as fuel the trash up for those Moria plays. And he's a great target for You Can Be My Samurai, or he can swing into a Searcher that we rest with our leader ability. Izo is a 2k counter and a Wano type, and he helps especially when Law has multiple active characters that we need to swing into or KO, and our leader ability isn't quite enough to give us the tempo we need. And then the 4-cost Borsellino's back in action now that Sakazuki isn't going to bottom deck him anymore. Granted, Law can still tuck him, but that's only one of our big matchups instead of two, like it was in EVO1. And since PERONA likes keeping a healthy life total to give her stability as she heads into the middle and late game, it's always a great feeling when we can block a 7k with Borsellino and then slap a 2k on to keep him alive. Ryuma is still our mid-game superstar to KO the rested characters on our opponent's board, and honestly, we're fine to rest him with You Can Be My Samurai since the on-KO effect will dissuade our opponent from attacking into him, and even if they do, we can still bring him back with Moria. And then we have another really cool new Wano card, Kozuki Hiyori. Activate Main, you can place her into the trash, then place a 5 or less Land of Wano type character, other than Hiyori, of course, from the hand onto the field, and then you draw one. So you can just rest her with Samurai, use her effect, send her to the trash, play Ryuma or Yama-san, 5-cost 7k vanilla, love to see it, and then you get to draw one. So you get to use You Can Be My Samurai, but then you have an offensive threat your opponent can't attack into, and you get an extra card out of it. She is very worth the 2 slots. Our 5-cost Sabo is a black staple, he has been for a little while now. Love filtering out for those unsearchables, love making it so our characters can't be KO'd by opponent's effects. Not much else to say about him aside from the fact that he's still good and he fits in this deck perfectly. Heading into the top end, let's all wish a happy belated Father's Day to Gecko Moria. On 8-Don, we can potentially revive Hiyori and Soldier, use Soldier's effect to reduce a 7-cost down to 4, rest it with the leader ability, and then use that Hiyori to bring the Ryuma out and KO it. But there's also something to be said about waiting to use him till turn 5 and combining him either with Ice Age to get more reach, or You Can Be My Samurai to keep the card advantage up. And resting him isn't even a huge issue since our opponent has to invest more resources to swing into a 9k body. And our other 8-drop is the new Secret Rare Sabo from Set 7. On play, he can KO a 5-cost and a 3-cost by discarding 1 card from our hand. He is our go-to option versus Law because we need to keep their board in control, and we've got plenty of draw here to hopefully offset the cost of discarding one. And then if we add our leader ability, Suru, Soldier, Ice Age, some combination of those into the picture, we can really expand that range he has and get some nice tempo plays to keep the board advantage up. And speaking of Ice Age, it wasn't quite as popular in those Set 6 builds, but it definitely has a place here. I already mentioned using it to expand Sabo's range, but even with Ryuma, we can get some big targets. If we think as tall as possible, we've got a 2-card combo to out Moria, 8-cost Katakuri, Yamato. We can even hit the 10-cost Ace that Anella's running if we use the -1 from leader, since he'll very often swing the turn he comes out. Then heading into our card counts, we see that Suru, Moria, Ryuma were played in every single deck. Sabo and the Wano package were very widespread, followed by Borsellino, Soldier, Inupe, Yama-san, Ice Age. Sabo was in 50% of decks, and then some played Stussy as well. I like her a lot. I think that the list the algorithm was giving me before the last couple entries actually had a 2-1 split of Sabo and Stussy. Only needing 1 card to KO anything can really come in clutch, and with this Samurai package, there's going to be plenty of characters that you're okay sending to the trash. And then beyond those, we've got a few more tech options. Zoro and Dofri both saw some play in the initial phase of post-ban OP07. I like the idea of Doflamingo, but something feels weird about using all 10 Don in 1 turn. I feel like I always want to have 1 free either for Samurai or for an Otama search. And I personally would rather KO, but Dofi is still a valid option. Same for Zoro. He's a great card, helps us out in a lot of matchups. Something just doesn't feel... It just doesn't feel like he gels with the rest of the deck. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right to me, but if you want to try him, go for it. Rocinante is a pretty cool pick. He got combined with Kid in a couple lists. If you want to go for that stall strategy instead of going for more 2-character KOs with Sabo, also valid. I also just like him to stop some of our arrested characters from getting KO'd, especially after we samurai them. Wasn't expecting to see Belmare here, if I'm being honest with you. She actually found her way into a couple of lists right before the end of the format. I didn't really see anyone talking about her in the articles I read. I assume she just expands Ryuma's range a little bit without giving up an Ice Age or a 2K. Seems cool. Maybe I'll try it out. 10-cost Kuzan was in one early post-ban list. Does vibe with the general strategy, gets more things in range of the leader ability and Ryuma, but he's a big investment. That's 4 spots that could be our consistency engine. I don't know if I'm feeling it, honestly. Then Kuzan and Sakazuki were both in one list from, I want to say, a week and a half into the format. Very experimental. People were still very much figuring out what was good in the format. No Wano package, no nothing. Another direction. Might try it, but I can't say I'm super interested in it. I think there are enough black decks that can use the Admirals just fine. In fact, the Tashigi, the Sengoku, the Branu, the Drake, those were all in that same list. Very, very Navy focused. Drake was used a lot in set 6 as extra Ryuma. Not sure he's quite as necessary with the consistency boost the Wano package gives us. Helmeppo is also cool to bring out off Moria, but I'd rather have Soldier in this deck. I want the 2K. I do like the idea of Bartolomeo from set 7. That is pretty nifty. We're, of course, resting things all the time with our leader ability. And if there's one thing this deck loves, it's consistency. I just wonder if it might be a little win more with all the drawing we're already doing. But it's worth testing. I'll probably try him out if I keep playing PERONA. And then whoever wins this war becomes Justice. Good card. I'll take a 0-cost 3K event if we need it. I've felt decent about the amount of counter in this deck so far, but it's always worth considering. And it's also going to be too much for me to fit on a slide, but as I've considered these videos, I'm realizing that the percentage played for each card and each count of that card doesn't fully give the picture of how each card ranks in these decks. That's a whole other algorithm. I can go over it some other time if people would like me to. Otherwise, here are the 10 cards that can be cut most easily without creating too much deviation, I guess would be the term. And then 10 cards that could be added with the least deviation. You'll see repeats out of order. That's just to preserve the precedence that each one has in the algorithm. Potential adds are the 2 Zoro, a 2nd Yamasan, 3rd Soldier, the 1 Belmare, which I need to research this more. I wish I had an answer for you here. This completely blindsided me. 4th copy of Soldier, 3rd Hiyori, 1 Stussy, and then 1 or 2, whoever wins this war becomes the victor. Justice, whatever it is. These feel like some good options to me. And then our cuts are the 2 Anupe, the 3rd and 4th Ice Age. That one, I don't know about. I was testing the 2 Ice Age at first, and I at least wanted a 3rd. I think 3 Ice Age at least, in my opinion. The 3rd 8-cost Sabo, the single Yamasan we have, the 2 Soldier, and 1 of the 4 Borsalinos. So Soldier could really go either way. Same with Yamasan, depends on what you're feeling. I like them both myself. But that's PERONA. This deck is still fun, still really cool. The Wano package is a breath of fresh air. Actually, these Japanese articles were calling it Ecology PERONA, which I find very fun. That's a great name. She was really picking up steam in this middle part of the post-ban meta as an anti-meta pick. She was seeing her most success in that second third of the post-ban meta. Before and after, she was pretty rogue. She's not busting the ceiling of the game's power level, but she's very fun, and a good pilot can do very well with her. If you're big into sequencing, generating card advantage, and combo, then I think this is a really fun deck. I highly recommend it. And I hope to see her get some wins in set 7 on our side. I think she could do well. And yeah, that's PERONA. I hope you are as fascinated by this list as I am. If you like the video, please give it a like. Let me know your thoughts down below. And if you want to know when the rest of the countdown comes out, as soon as it comes out, especially that big video with the broader meta thoughts, feel free to subscribe. Always appreciated. Always very grateful to anyone who is down to stick around and support the channel. But this is Sakura Kingdom. I'm gonna sort through some of these papers on my desk, see if I have any hot cash, because, like, I gotta get them Funko Pops. And I'll see you for the next one.